story. When we get our period in school or in the workplace, frantically stick up a tampon up our sleeve and walk that walk of shame to the bathroom, said Congresswoman Grace Meng, New York, in the CBS Originals documentary, Period. Women, people who compose 49.6% of our population, still are not treated properly for experiencing the so-called period and are in fact degraded in the process. 69% of women feel uncomfortable carrying period products to the bathroom. And trust me, these are the lucky ones. In addition to the discomfort, a shocking amount of women lack access to basic and hygienic sanitary products. And no, I'm not taking the statistics from a developing country. In the United States of America, which is hailed as one of the most advanced and developed countries in our world, over 3.5 million women lack access to pads and tampons. According to the 2014 Shriver report, millions of impoverished women go through the shame of not being able to tend for themselves during their cycles. Why? We're launching rockets to the moon and have found a vaccine to the coronavirus, but we haven't found a solution to period poverty. So today, by examining the root causes and bloody effects of stigmatizing the period, we will find sustainable solutions and see that period poverty is an issue not to be ignored. Period. So, how many of you were uncomfortable with the amount of times I just said period in those last 2 minutes? Take a moment to think for yourselves. Given the prior assumption that many of us may have associated the term period with some random, gross process every single girl goes through, a period is not a choice. It's simply biological. Much like a womb, the stigma around menstruation needs to be emptied and reformed. According to UNICEF, many girls lack a complete and accurate understanding of menstruation as a regular process. Educating girls before their first period, and more importantly boys, contributes to social solidarity, builds their confidence, and encourages healthy habits. Such information must be provided both at schools and homes. Unfortunately, according to the AWMA, 2 in 3 girls refrain from attending school due to the lack of adequate knowledge regarding menstruation. Contrary to the curse of Eve or hysteria around menstruation, a period is not a choice, a curse, or even a problem. According to Jane Usher, professor of women's health psychology at Western Sydney University, periods have been long associated with dirt, disgust, shame, while some may even say fear. Many of you may have heard that women from tribes in the olden days were confined to their own homes when menstruating. But here's what you haven't heard. Why? According to the Moontime Tale, women were considered the strongest when on their periods. Instead of taking care of familial chores like they always did, it was a time for themselves, a time of reflection with other women from their tribes. The way we as a society have twisted these traditions into degrading folklore is rather misleading. This leads to the taboos we seem to follow, which in turn leads to us reducing the perception we have on women's capabilities. Even Mr. Garrison from South Park says, "I'm sorry, Wendy, I don't trust anything that bleeds for 5 days and doesn't die." But what do? Sit back, watch, and laugh. The stigma around menstruation needs to be removed. Instead of blaming the curse of Eve, we as a society need to respect women for the biological miracle they take part in every month for a majority of their lives. The lack of awareness we have towards menstruation education leads to us students snickering behind the biology classroom during the reproduction unit or laughing at a girl when she bleeds through her pants. But here's what we don't think about. We all would not be alive here today if our very own biological mothers did not menstruate. But we take no time to think or even acknowledge that. Instead, 60% of women feel that society teaches them to be ashamed of their periods, while 80% of women feel gross when on their periods. 80% of women. Now that's gross. According to the AWMA, period poverty is not only limited to pads and tampons, but safe toilets and clean water. Water and toilets are something I have access to whenever I want, but unfortunately, I can't speak for every single woman out there. Let me give you an analogy we can all relate to. Let's say you open a wound on your foot. What would you do? Remove the dirty sock, disinfect the wound with some water, and put on a clean sock. But what if the water you had was so infected with bacteria that cleaning it would actually infect it more? What if you didn't have the financial stability to afford a new pair of socks? And what if your best option was to continue wearing the same old dirty sock? Well, either way, you're gonna get an infection. And that is what happens to the underprivileged women who use newspapers and dirty rags in replacement to pads and tampons. In the United States, pads and tampons are not covered by Medicaid and food stamps for these underprivileged women. If they had to choose between feeding their family or buying period products, they would probably choose to feed their family. But bleeding through your pants goes far beyond simply bleeding through your pants. It poses many health risks. According to a US global-wide article, nearly 800,000 women die yearly in the US due to lack of access to adequate sanitation. While many of us may be privileged and have access to such products, that's not the case for every girl, especially those of teenage ages. Many girls within and without the US refrain from attending school when on their periods due to period poverty. If every cycle lasts 5 days long and a school year is 10 to 11 months long, a girl nearly misses 50 to 55 days of her education, which accounts for 20% of her education. According to a study done by the nonprofit organization Period and Thinks, 1 in 5 girls refrain from attending school when on their periods, while 4 in 5 girls know of someone who does so. An anonymous student from Portland tells us that period poverty causes her way more stress than her academic performance. And studies show that 2/3 of female teens feel more stressed due to period poverty than simply anything else. So far, we looked at the causes and effects of stigmatizing the period. So on a more positive note, let's move on to some solutions. Well, number 1, advocate, like I am to you right now. Last summer, we started seeing a huge uplift in social media where people like us started advocating for social injustices. What did we see? Positive change. So after this round, go share a post about period poverty to your Instagram stories to raise awareness. Number 2, buy smart. Instead of buying from brands such as Always, try buying from brands such as Kotex, which donate a product for a woman in need for every purchase that's made. Over 30 million products have been donated in the past, and they will continue to do so with our support. Lastly, break unprogressive societal backgrounds. Doesn't need to be me, my mom, and my sister walking through the feminine needs aisle of Target, but it can also be my dad and my brother. Hey, real men buy tampons. So today, much like a uterus, we broke down the problems and shed some light on some tangible solutions. Everybody has a period story, from Congresswoman Grace Mann to me talking to you, to those of us who were brave enough to wear white shorts that day, and to the boy who called off his friends from laughing at that girl. It connects us all. It's sacred, it's innate, it's biological, it's not a curse, it's not a problem, it's not an issue. And I hope you say it with me right now. 3, 2, 1. It's a period. Thank you.